ALN, Nelson. Your gift to the bride will fill her with pride if it bears the General Electric trademark. Nelson Electric, your friendly GE dealer, suggests a toaster, automatic blanket, electric clock, or heating pad. Select with confidence at Nelson Electric, your GE dealer in Nelson.
CBC Sports Review. Here are news and views of the world of sport by your CBC Sports commentator, Bill Good.
Hello again, sport fans in Western Canada.
Last week when I was out in Lacombe, Alberta, I told you quite a bit about the Lacombe baseball tournament, and I won't go into that anymore today. Suffice to say that sitting up in the press box, I was very lucky in running into John Ducey. They call him the Mahatma of Renfrew from Alberta. The reason they call John that, I know he's very well known throughout the entire Western Canada. He's well known in Vancouver, down through the Pacific Northwest, but particularly around Alberta. And I have taken advantage of the fact that I ran into John to have a little interview with him up in the press box. And also with me I have rotund, flabby Don Fleming from the Edmonton Journal, who is going out in about 2 days with me to curl in the Nelson Midsummer Bonspiel. We'll be in Nelson on Sunday. The mayor of Nelson is also in the stands, and if I'm fortunate, I'll have an interview with him in a very short while, too. But tonight, at this very moment, in the press box at Lacombe, I would like to talk to the Mahatma, to John, the referee, the boy that officially opened the tournament a couple of days ago. I'd like to tell you a little story about that. From they put John out there to throw the first ball and to make his speech and officially open a wonderful ballpark in the town of Lacombe. John made a wonderful, wonderful speech, and then he had to go out and throw the first ball off that slab over the home plate. And because I happen to be out here from Vancouver, the committee in Lacombe, Bill Douglas and his boys, asked me if I would umpire. It so happened that a few days earlier in the city of Edmonton, the Lacombe Baseball Committee had a bit of a cocktail party for some of the sports writers and radio men, fellows like Ducey, George Snowden, who happens to be up here too, and a lot of guys. And John said to Don Fleming, the sports writer with the Journal, the columnist, that he would put that pitch that he threw to open the ballpark right across the height of the plate. They made a small wager that he would. The only catch came that I became the umpire, and I told Ducey when he got up in that slab, I said, John, you just hit that catcher anywhere near him at all, and I'll make sure you get a strike, and you'll win that bet from Fleming. Well, John got up. He took 4 practice pitches, none of which came close to the plate, but that fifth one that he threw, the one that I was umpiring with, I put my right hand up in the air, and I said, strike. So Ducey made the pitch. Fleming lost the bet, and everybody's a little bit happy. John, we've got some great ideas you and I have talked about up in the hotel room. We've talked about it for 2 or 3 years, about the possibility of the Vancouver baseball community and the New Westminster baseball community eventually getting involved in a baseball league with Calgary and possibly Edmonton. And you had some ideas that might go on even further. Would you mind telling us a little bit about this? And I trust that Bob Brown from the Vancouver Capellanos might be listening to this too, John.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. Our situation in Edmonton is briefly this. We are interested very much in getting organized baseball status. And the Western International League appears rather attractive to us if certain problems can be eliminated. I think, Bill, the big problem for Edmonton and also Calgary is the geographical structure of the Western International League is now established. It is rather difficult to entertain travel to the extent of way down into Salem, Oregon, down into Lewiston, Idaho. But I believe, now I'm not saying that this should be done, but this is only my own opinion, I believe there is a tremendous potential in the great city of New Westminster, B.C., for a status of organized baseball. If that was feasible to the directors of the Western International League to consider New Westminster, then it would be much more attractive to Edmonton and Calgary and much more feasible. And I'm sure that Edmonton and Calgary are 2 great cities that will add considerable to the sun of organized baseball, to the dominion of organized baseball. We're big cities. We're 180,000 Edmonton, 140,000 Calgary, and we're continuing to grow. And we'll have a great deal to offer organized baseball.
Well, John, I go along with that to a great extent for the simple reason that in the first year of operation, the Pacific Coast Hockey League, which is now the Western Hockey League, proved to be a tremendous success, and the traveling wasn't too tough between New Westminster, Victoria, and Vancouver, and coming out to Calgary, Saskatoon, and Edmonton. And in baseball, it's a little different. They can play a ball game every day and sometimes twice a day on one swing around. They can play 5 games. In hockey, you can't do that. You play one game, you rest one, you play another game. And the traveling wasn't too expensive with a hockey team. I think that it's very, very possible with the success of that hockey league that you could have that out here. Now, Don Fleming, who's very close to the hockey situation and also very, very close to the baseball situation in Alberta, might have some of his own views on it. What do you think, Don?
Well, Bill, what I want to say is this. I think this hookup between the prairies and the coast in hockey is the greatest thing that's developed in that sport, certainly within my recollection. It's been a myth for some time that a hookup like that, because of the vast traveling distances, would never be a financial success. But I think that was disproven very conclusively last year. And I don't think that baseball... I think baseball should experience the same thing. Now, John, I know that we want the best kind of ball that we can have here. There are about 3 possibilities. There's the Western Canada League, cities from here down to Winnipeg, Brandon and Regina and Moose Jaw and Lethbridge, Calgary, Saskatoon. And there's also the possibility of a hookup, maybe a northeastern section of the Pioneer League, which is a Class C league. And there's also the Class A Western National. Now, I know that we all want the best possible baseball we can have, which in this case would be the Western National. Our cities are growing at a rapid rate of speed. What do you think is the draw that we must have in order to make a financial go of this?
I think, Don, that to come out on a season's operation, we got to draw in there around 150,000 in a Class A league. I think that it would take it off very nicely. And I might point out that in a Big 4 league that we operate in Alberta with Calgary and Edmonton, that's 2 teams in each city. Semi-pro status. Our draw in Renfrew Park in 1949 was 155,000 people. Now, baseball men across the line will tell you what is the potential when we have organized status of 6 and 8 cities in organized baseball. What is it, the potential of Edmonton? They see it as a tremendous possibility for organized baseball.
Now, John, do you think, Don, that you can get the baseball players out here to get a baseball team in Edmonton, a baseball team in Calgary of the Class A status if you went into that league of the Western International League? Are there that many ball players around? Could you get your tie-up down south with the American teams? What do you think, John?
Bill, I have had correspondence from different major league clubs who are living in expectation and hopes that we will attain organized status, and they have expressed the wish to secure a working agreement with Edmonton and the Major League Club. Particularly the Pittsburgh Pirate Organization. Mr. Bob Clements, the Western Director, is very interested in our efforts in Edmonton, and I'm sure that when we attain status that there will be no trouble in getting a solid working agreement.
Well, John, I must admit that I agree with you 100%, and I don't think that a league involving in Canada between Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, New Westminster, Victoria, and possibly 1 or 2 teams just south of the line, I think it would work 100%. Thanks very much, John, for coming up here, and I hope that dream of yours eventually does come true. And I must add to you people that don't know John personally that he's had a lot of tie-up in baseball. Besides running Renfrew Park, John used to live down. He was born in the States in Buffalo, New York. He had 12 years down there umpiring in that Eastern League, which is a very good league indeed, and he knows what he's talking about. He knows these baseball players. He knows what kind of men he can get, and he knows what we possibly could do. And the traveling, as I say, if they can do it in hockey, Don Fleming, I think they can certainly do it in baseball.
You're right, Bill.
Don, just before we leave now, I understand you're taking a rink a couple of days down to the Nelson Midsummer Bonspiel. Who have you got in that rink? And it better be awful good, because I'm taking one down, too.
Well, Bill, I wanted an opportunity to correct the use of your prepositions. You said that Don Fleming and I were going down to curl with each other. I think the correct word is against, because this is for sure after what you did to me yesterday, that umpiring deal. We're going to have a pretty good rink. We got Bert Wright, who is now a commercial traveler working out of Edmonton. He's a former Winnipegger, and he did very well. He was quite the rage of the Portage Prairie car bonspiel a few years back. And another man we got with us is Colin Kilburn, the professional hockey player. And the other man is Walter Wade of Nelson. He's well known as a former hockey player himself, former newspaper man, and now he operates a newsstand. So, Bill, I better give you advice that you better have your guns well oiled up.
Well, I'll tell you, Don, I got Frank Avery curling third for me. At least I'll let him curl third as long as he's making the odd shot. Ken Samus was out here with his ball team yesterday. He'll be out again today. And he said, well, with Avery curling third, you got to keep him under control and stop him throwing those runners. But I got Frank curling third as long as he lasts. I've got Cecil Edwards from Vancouver curling second rocks. And I think I'll put Alf Millam, the guy from Hardisty, Alberta, the hotel man from Vancouver, leading for me. And to tell you the truth, next Saturday night, I expect with that rink that I got, providing they all behave themselves, that I'll be up there taking that Grand Challenge trophy. If we had Ducey up there sweeping, we might do something. Well, thanks very much, John Ducey, and thank you a lot, Don Fleming.
Thank you.
I have with me also up in the press box at Lacombe the mayor of Nelson, Joe Kary, and after just talking about how I'm going to take that Grand Challenge away from Nelson in a couple of days. Joe, you're out here at Lacombe, I know, to find out something about baseball tournaments. You're also out to a mayor's convention in Calgary. But, Joe, are the arrangements all set for next week in Nelson?
They're complete in every detail, Bill. As far as I know, everything is rolling fine, and we are looking forward to having a full entry and a lot of fun at Nelson next week.
Besides the curling, Joe, they've got a few other sidelines, a few other attractions besides the fishing and the usual fun that we've had for the last 7 or 8 years going up there. What about this ball tournament, Joe? You're planning on that in the end of the week. Turk Road is coming up, is that right?
I understand that's correct, Bill. The ball tournament is all arranged, and we look to have good ball up there in Nelson next week.
Well, good ball, good curling, and a lot of fun, and we look forward to seeing Turk Broda, Bill Harold, Roy Sharp, Norman Stibbs, and the rest of the fellas we always do. Joe, I trust you've enjoyed yourself here at Lacombe in this baseball tournament.
I'm seeing some very nice ball. This ball park is terrific, and this is the first game I've witnessed this afternoon. I'm looking forward to the final games tonight. We've seen a lovely play out there just now. It's something I've been looking forward to for a long time, and I hope that we can have something like this in Nelson in the near future, Bill.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Joe Kary in Nelson. It's very nice to have seen you in Lacombe, as we did about 10 days ago, and we'll see you in 2 days, sharp on the nose, at the Nelson Midsummer Bonspiel.
Next week at this time, I will be broadcasting from the Midsummer Bonspiel at Nelson, which I have just told you about. All going well, I'll be in Nelson on Sunday morning, bright and early, whenever that choo-choo pulls in from Vancouver. From Nelson, it's a day or two in Lethbridge for a little work I have to do there, and then on to Winnipeg for the Canadian Open Golf Tournament. The Open begins bright and early Wednesday morning, July the 16th, and Doug Smith and I will be on hand at the St. Charles Country Club for 4 days, bringing you the highlights of the play over the CBC. All of the big names in golf will be there, from Sam Snead and Jim Ferrier to Julius Boras, the husky young man who just 2 weeks ago won the United States Open title down in Dallas, Texas. And also on hand will be Vancouver's little Walter McElroy, who won the Canadian Amateur Championship a year ago. When I was in Alberta a week ago, I heard a lot of talk about which man would take over this team in hockey and which man would take over the other team in hockey, and certainly there is a lot of confusion as to who will coach the junior teams and who will coach the senior teams. However, Doug Bentley will be back to run the Saskatoon Quakers for sure. Bud Poyle will be the new man in charge of the Edmonton Flyers, and Hank Blade will return to Calgary to run the Stampeders this coming season. A new hockey coach and general manager has been signed by Coley Hall of the Vancouver Canucks. The latest to join the long list of Canuck bosses is Art Chapman, the former major leaguer who has been running hockey in Buffalo, New York. Well, perhaps after another swing through the prairies, I'll have a better idea of what the future looks like in hockey right across Western Canada. Right now, it's hard to get the boys out there to talk about anything else but football, and there's plenty of that. Well, let's get back to golf for just a moment. We had a big tournament out here just a few days ago, which saw Walter McElroy fight it out with his longtime rival Bill Mahoney for the British Columbia title. The match went 36 holes, and when it was over, Mahoney was the winner, 1-up. He also nosed out Walter by 1 stroke in medal scoring. And still on golf, the latest word today that I have on the Manitoba Open is that Bill Thompson took the lead after 18 holes yesterday with a score of 73. Bill plays out of Brandon now, but he was a professional down in Guelph, Ontario for many years. He's originally from Brandon, son of the famous Matt Thompson. And Uncle Stan Thompson is one of the really great golf architects in the world. And Doug Silverberg from Red Deer, Alberta, last week won the Central Alberta golf title. That's it now. It's time to hustle back home and get those bags packed to shine up the curling badges, and on to Nelson tomorrow. This is Bill Good in Vancouver saying good night and 30.
Those were news and views from the world of sport by your CBC sports commentator, Bill Good. CBC Sports Review with Bill Good will be heard again next Friday at the same time. This is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
CKLN in Nelson.